Rajni, what's wrong?
Tom, I have a script and I don't know what to do with it. Should I burn it? Feed it to my cat?
You need some writers group therapy.
Hello and welcome to Writers Group Therapy.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Roshni. We're writers helping writers. Ready for your session? The doctors are in. So we've talked about it before. It's so hard to carve out time to create. But how do you keep yourself motivated to keep creating?
One way you can keep yourself motivated is by getting an accountability buddy or accountability partner. I did that once after I did a mentoring workshop for writing, and one of my friends from the workshop and I decided to become accountability friends or partners. And each week we would call each other and have a standing time to call each other and, oh, this is what I'm working on and this is what I've done since last week, and kind of just checking in and making sure we've got all of our, moving forward and making progress. The only problem is then we would have to be accountable to make the phone call to actually go over the stuff. And over time, we kind of just eventually stop calling each other.
It's funny. When I was in songwriting, that was actually something that I went to like a mentoring conference type thing. And that was something that the guru up at the front said, get an accountability partner. And a lot of us left that conference with each other's numbers with the intent of holding each other accountable. But it is hard. Life gets in the way. And I think you both have to be really motivated. It helps if you can meet in person versus like talking on the phone, because it's really easy to put off a phone call. But if you're like staring at that person face to face, you're like, oh yeah, and I haven't written anything in 2 weeks. From an actor's perspective, I know there's a lot of actor accountability groups in LA, but you do meet in person. Again, I don't know if they'd really do phone call stuff. I think they encourage you to meet in person.
That's a good idea, because with our writers group, that becomes kind of an accountability factor. When you sign up to present at a meeting, sometimes I'll do it even though I don't have anything written yet, but it motivates me to write something so that when I come to the meeting, I have something to share. And then after sharing, you get notes and suggestions from your fellow writers group members, and then you feel obligated to go actually take them to heart and do the work and improve on what you've written.
It's like homework
kind of, yeah. So as long as you take it as the right kind of motivation, because sometimes you'd be like, oh, I have to write something for the group, and writing something just for that reason isn't always a good thing, because you want to write something because you want to write something and because it's a good idea and you plan to work on it. So I have right here a stack of scripts with notes on it from past writers group meetings that I have yet to get back to tweak and work on.
It's funny, speaking of, I guess this would be a form of personal accountability, but when I get notes, I have to work on them within about 48 hours. Because if I let them cool, I completely forget what were they trying to say? What was the spirit behind it? What am I supposed to tweak? Even if I write my own notes, for some reason, you just have to strike when the iron's hot. And if I let it cool for a couple weeks, then I might as well just throw out the notes and start over.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I don't even recognize my own notes sometimes. My handwriting is really bad, actually. So I'll make a bunch of notes and then I'll be like, what was I thinking? It's better to type notes for me to do type notes. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I found with accountability, like, keep it simple, just like I can't have like 50 binders of information. I just have to keep it simple. I'm only accountable with one partner. I'm only meeting in one group. I just can't be in 50 million things, because then you're just split too thin and then you don't have time for everything.
Yeah, I know how that is. Like doing these podcasts, we have to keep doing them.
It's fun.
Oh, it's fun, yeah. But then we sit there and think about, well, what are we going to talk about this week? It's like, I don't know. Maybe we should do something about accountability, about doing your podcast. It's kind of meta. I think, in general, it's difficult as a aspiring writer, I suppose, to be accountable, because you're only really accountable to yourself, or in our case, like our writers group. But if you have projects you're working on with people who are actually producing stuff, then you have a little more accountability. Or if you're being obviously a paid writer, you have deadlines and things. So really, I guess giving yourself deadlines is a good thing. And like we've talked about, you writing pilots and stuff and specs for the workshops, that gives you a deadline. So now you have some accountability to yourself to make those deadlines.
Mm-hmm. And I think, especially as a writer, it's important to have some sort of accountability, because we are it's a lone wolf kind of job, if you really wanted it to be, unless you're like a TV writer and you have a writer's room and stuff like that. But if you're a feature film writer, if you're a novelist, whatever, you're on your own pretty much, as opposed to like an actor. It makes sense. You're in a group of people, so you have your other actors in your play or whatever that you have to hold those standards for. But especially as a writer or a songwriter, when I was doing that, it's very much a solo thing. So it's really helpful to have somebody along for the ride.
Well, we're all starting out still. So, we don't have, writing managers or agents. Those obviously would be people who would try to keep you going and hold you accountable for deadlines and projects. Although I had a thing with this one manager, agent guy, he was interested in a horror film I wrote, and he read the script and he gave me all these great notes, and then I rewrote it, and then I sent it back to him, and he never got back to me. And I had responded to him several times, and he never got back to me. So it's tough to be accountable to someone who's not also accountable to you.
Well, I would argue with an agent or a manager. I mean, agents and managers are great, but they're really only working for that 1% that they know will make them money. So if you're a tried and true writer and you're like, look at my body of work, it's, 20 pages long, they're going to hold you a little more accountable. Like, if you're James Patterson or something, versus if you're like, I'm Joe Schmo just coming up.
Sure. I mean, if I had a pending deal on this script and he was trying to sell it or package it or whatever, then he'd be like all over me, like, you got to finish it. You got to do it. But if he's just a guy who thinks I might have a decent script here, and he's not sure what he's going to do with it, and he's got no one else looking at it, then there's no incentive for him to like spend time on it. If he's got other people out there that are going to make him, more money, I guess, then he's going to spend time on them. So
yeah.
So I guess, in those kids' situations, it's your responsibility to either hold him accountable or find someone else who will work with you in a more professional way. So
how about for you guys? How do you hold yourselves accountable? Do you have an accountability partner, or do you just go it alone and hope for the best? Let us know your thoughts at WG Therapy. You can also find us online at writersgrouptherapy.com. And if you like what you hear, subscribe and share it with your friends. We'll see you next week.